So I'm in the middle of a project and I'm just waiting for some hardware to arrive, so I figured I'd do a frequently asked questions video since you guys have been asking for it. So I asked on Instagram what sort of questions you guys had for me, and there seemed to be a few common questions, so hopefully I can answer them for you. So this is just going to be a video of me straight talking to the camera. If you're not interested, feel free to click away. I will not be offended. So let's begin. Number one, how do you pronounce your name? My name is spelled Tamar, and that's pronounced Tamar. It's not Tamara or Tamar, it's Tamar. So it's a Hebrew biblical name, and it means date, like the date fruit. Tamar. So second question is the most popular question that I get, whether it be on the internet or in real life. How did you get started in woodworking? So there's a very short, sweet, simple answer to this, which is I wanted to try it. I did. I liked it, so I continued doing it. But I figured that you guys want a little bit more than that. And there's a few ways that people phrase this question, besides for how did you get started in woodworking. It's what inspired you to start, what's your background, do you have formal training, what did you do before woodworking? So there's kind of a long story that goes along with this that starts way back like a billion years ago when I was in high school. And I was obsessed with music, particularly finding new bands before anybody else did. And my dream job was to be an A&R rep for a record label or to make soundtracks for movies. So that was where I thought I was going to go in life. So in college, I studied media studies, where I learned absolutely nothing about the music industry, but I did learn how to edit video. So fast forward a little bit, my senior year of college, I got married. I know it's very young, but he took me to an Allman Brothers concert as our second date, and that sealed the deal. So I graduated college and I could not find a job in the music industry like I had hoped, but I did end up working for a advertising agency in New York City. And I worked there for a little bit until baby number one happened, and we made this decision that I would quit my job and stay home and raise the kids. So fast forward, baby number two happens, baby number three happens, and all that while, I always tried to do things that were creative just to keep me sane. So I would do art projects with the kids, I would do art projects for myself. I started going to flea markets and buying old furniture and refinishing it and fixing it up. And that's how I started my tool collection, because I needed to fix these pieces of furniture that I was flipping. So I thought that after my kids start going to school that I was just going to be flipping furniture and that was going to be my job. But one day I was looking for a piece of furniture for my outdoor fire pit area. I wanted a bench that had some storage in it, and I couldn't find anything that I liked. But I found a tutorial online for a pretty simple bench, and I thought I could add a shelf on the bottom of it, and that would be the firewood storage. And I was like, I feel like I could do this. I have never built anything before, but I have some confidence in fixing things, fixing old pieces of furniture. So I feel like I've seen enough older pieces, broken pieces, that I know how they could go together, that I would be able to build something from scratch. So I went out and got the least expensive miter saw that I could possibly find. Got some 2x4s from the big box store, and I made a horrible looking bench. But I fell in love with the whole process. I had this idea and all this hard work went into it, and then it was there, like tangible results from the time that I spent doing it. And I just became obsessed with this feeling of creating. So I just kept wanting to do more and wanting to challenge myself more and wanting to learn more. So I have zero formal training. The only thing that I learn from is by doing and by failing and by knowing what doesn't work, what does work, and that I think answers all of those questions. So there's another question of, how did you end up doing this whole YouTube social media content creation thing? So in the beginning of my whole woodworking thing, I wasn't posting anything on social media at all. It was strictly just for myself, my family, close friends. I was making stuff for them. But I came across something called the Builders Challenge on Instagram. And you need to have an Instagram account in order to participate in it. And I didn't want to use my private account, my personal account, because it's personal and private. So I had to create a business account in order to participate in this competition. So that's where I came up with the 3x3 custom page on Instagram. More on the name of why I picked that later. That's definitely a question in here. But just moving forward, I ended up competing in that competition and I lost. But what I gained from it was finding this woodworking community on Instagram. I had no idea that this existed out there in the world. And then finding all these like-minded people who also love to create, and finding all these other women also who were all these naptime crafters, which was a hashtag that was kind of popular. And it was just amazing meeting all these people or finding out that there was more people like me who were out there in the world sharing all their stuff on Instagram. So I just started sharing stuff along the way, like little tips and things that I found useful for myself. I was like, hey, like I just figured this out, or I just learned this. Maybe you guys would like to know this also. And people seem to really love that stuff. And fast forward a little bit, I have 10,000 Instagram followers. So at this point, I was like, I don't know what to do with this. I wanted this Instagram account. I was thinking that maybe I would use it to sell things like cutting boards and things like that. And I didn't know where to go with it. And I had some friends who were in this whole social media thing, and they kind of convinced me to go to this conference in Atlanta that was for bloggers, DIY bloggers specifically. It was the Haven Conference. And I went reluctantly, and it completely changed my life by going, because it was at that conference where I realized that I wanted to focus on creating videos for YouTube. So I took a class there on YouTube videos and DIY, and something went off in my head, and I said, hey, I have this background in video editing. Not that I'm great at it, but it's something that I felt comfortable doing. And I have this woodworking thing. Maybe I should just put the two together, and that will be my job. So right after that conference, I fully focused on creating YouTube videos. And fast forward a bit more, and we're here. So that is why I started YouTube. That's how I started YouTube. And I guess the next logical question here was, what does 3x3 custom mean? So when I was first making that Instagram account, I had to come up with a business name. So I was thinking that I was going to be selling little things like cutting boards, and I thought it would be cool to make a logo that would look cool that was burnt on a cutting board. So I kind of went a little bit backwards in the name of my business. I thought that it would be cool to have something with an X in the middle of it. And then I just had to think about what was on the other side of that X. And I remember I thought of this as I was sitting in the carpool line picking up my kids from school. And I knew that it had to have something to do with my children. So how many children do I have? I have 3 of them. And it just so happens that my oldest son, his birthday is March 3rd. So 3/3 is the day that I became a mom. So 3x3 Custom is a combination of my kids, who are my life, and my passion, which is this woodworking thing. So like 3x3, like 2x4, 4x4, and the threes are representing my children. So I thought that I was going to change it. Once I started YouTube, I thought I would change it to my name because it would like be confusing. Like, what is this 3x3, 3x3? But just knowing the meaning of it, it's special to me. So I decided to just keep it and go with it. Okay, moving on to some more family questions. Why don't we ever see your husband? How do I answer this? So my husband and I are actually very private people, and the fact that I'm actually doing this whole YouTube thing is a complete shock to everyone that knows us. All of my childhood friends are just like, what are you doing? This is so not like you. So we've always just really enjoyed our privacy. So when I first started this, he asked that he remain anonymous. So I'm just fulfilling his wishes of remaining anonymous, and that's why you don't see him. A lot of people also want to know how come I don't show my kids, and it's the same thing. My kids are my private life, and this channel is my job, my work. That has nothing to do, my kids have nothing to do with the woodworking. Yes, they do help me sometimes. Yes, we do projects together sometimes that I don't film, and I don't want that relationship with them to be my work. I want it to be completely separate. And also, they're just not old enough to make the decision to have their faces out for the world to see. So I know right now they're upset that they can't be on a YouTube channel. Sometimes my daughter will pop her face in and I'll have to edit it out. But they'll thank me when they're older. Next one. All right, next one. How do you deal with people who think the tools, workshop, and projects are actually done by your husband? Believe it or not, there are still a lot of people who think that I'm not the one doing the work, that I'm just the one on camera. How do I deal with them? I don't. That's their problem. If they think that, it's not my problem. Let them think whatever they want, and that's on them, not me. Okay. How do you manage time with family and work? So sometimes I manage it well, and sometimes I don't. I try my best. Sometimes it doesn't end up the way that I want it to, but all you could do is just try. So I try to schedule and organize as much things as I possibly can, and dedicate blocks of time to certain things. So normal times, normal BC times, wake up in the morning, drive the kids to school, and my mornings are dedicated to anything that's like house related and computer related. And it's usually around like 10, 11 sometimes that I'll make it out to my shop. So from that time until 3, until the kids come home, I am in here. This is what I'm focused on. As soon as they come home, the doors are shut to the shop, and I'm back in the house helping them with homework and making dinner and all that stuff. But yes, there are some times where you'll see on my videos where they'll be like, Mom. So those are the times when it's like at the end of a project where I just want to finish it already. So I do end up working when they're home, and I really don't like those times, but they happen. And then after I'm done being a car service, driving to the basketballs and the dances and all that kind of stuff, after they go to sleep, then I'm back on the computer again, editing. So there's just, I really try to focus on the family when it's the family time. It doesn't always work out that way, but I try. I allot my weekends for family time. I don't work on the weekends. The door to my shop is shut on the weekends. I close my computer for the weekends. If you send me an email on the weekend, I'm not going to get back to you. I even have that on my website. I say, feel free to reach out, but if you're sending this on a weekend, I'll get back to you on Monday. I know a lot of people can't do that because they do this as their side hustle, and their weekend is their time to get in the shop. But to me, weekends are family, and that's just what I try to do. Next question. Do you do custom work for other people or just for YouTube? So a lot of people ask me this, hey, can I order something from you? Can I get a custom thing from you? And I'll say that I primarily just make stuff for YouTube and myself, but if you have a really cool idea, I'll gladly make it. Like if someone comes to me with an awesome idea, please, like I'd be so happy to make something like that. But every single time that I say this to someone, I get the same exact response. They come back with, oh, okay, I saw these really cool tables that it's like 2 pieces of wood that has like a middle cut out and it looks like there's like a river running through it. So I've yet to be approached with a project that someone comes to me with where I'm like, yes, let's do that. But I am open to doing custom work if I think it's really cool. So the way that this is a job is just the YouTube videos. So I don't sell my work. I don't sell my projects. I am making these things for myself and my family and for other people for gifts and things like that. But the revenue comes in with these videos and my sponsorships. So without these sponsorships that I get on my videos, there wouldn't be the videos at all. Like, yes, there's the Google revenue and affiliate links and all that, but none of it compares to the sponsorships. So it's really what keeps my channel running, and I really would not be able to make my videos without them. There would be no videos if I didn't have sponsors in my videos. I would then try to think of another way to make my woodworking into a career. So I know it's annoying when you see an ad in my videos, but just know that it's there because that's the only way that I could turn this into a business, and have some amazing sponsors that I've been working with. Like you've seen a lot of the same repeating ones, like Woodcraft has been an amazing sponsor for me. And if you need any high quality tools, they are definitely the place to go. So that's just, yeah, that's how I keep this thing running. All right, what's the best, worst thing about creating for YouTube? Okay, so the best thing I would say is that having to constantly come up with new and unique ideas kind of helps me like push boundaries of my own limitations, I guess. So like you can't just make a regular table for YouTube. Like there has to be something about this table that makes it like cool enough for someone want to watch. So I have to be more creative or try to be more creative. And I like that challenge of trying to come up with something cool, new, and different. So I guess that's the best thing. The worst thing is that people see when you fail. People like to see me fail, but it doesn't feel good to put out those kind of videos. So yeah, that's the worst thing. Everyone sees all your flaws. Where do you see yourself 5 years from now? So I know this whole YouTube thing is going to fizzle out at some point. It'll die down and I'll have to pivot and do something else. Definitely do not want to do TV. Turn down all those offers. Not interested in this for like any sort of fame. I do 5 years from now, I don't know, 5 years from now, but when this all fizzles out, I think that I have the most fun when I'm working on a guitar. So I feel like I still know nothing about guitar building. So there's so much for me to learn. And if I could just focus on guitars, then that would be it for me. So like when this all ends, I hope to make custom guitars. What would you do if you weren't a woodworker content creator? Well, if I had my dream job, I would have worked in the record industry, doing something. Something musical related, I guess. But I'm happy I don't have to think about that because I'm really happy with what I do. Okay. How long do your projects take? And how much time gets added to a project to include video production? This is a really good question because I don't think people realize like how much goes into making the videos. I recently made a project that I didn't film and record, and I was like, whoa, that was like so much easier than I thought it was going to be when I first started. So, because I have to think about so many things as I'm filming. Like, if I'm going to end up somewhere after I'm like moving, I have to make sure that the camera is set up in that spot where I'm ending. So I have to like move, set up the camera, and then back up and like redo steps. Sometimes I have to refilm things. I have to like think about what I'm going to say in the voiceover so that I can like match that up with things. Does it triple the amount of time that it takes? Maybe more. There's also that pre-making the project of planning everything beforehand, but I guess you would do that if you weren't making videos. But there's a lot of stuff that goes into this, and I don't have any help. This is me, my camera, nobody else is around. And there's a lot of stuff that goes on behind. Maybe triples the amount of time that it takes to make a project. I would say that's a good guess. What does your process look like for developing a new design or jig? So I think that both with the jigs and design, there's a problem that needs to be solved. And all the designs stem from that problem. Like, I needed a place to store my kids' toys, so I need to figure out how to build something around these bins that I have. Or I needed a place to store my kids' school supplies, and I wanted it to be built into a table, so I have to figure out where in the table that's going to go. Or with jigs, it's like, I need to be able to hold this workpiece at a certain angle. What can I use to hold those things in that certain angle? So it's all problem solving, and then the design comes after that. Then with the furniture stuff, once I figure out like what sort of thing I'm going to do to solve the problem, then it comes to like the aesthetic stuff. And what I do every once in a while, like everyone else, I'll look through magazines or scroll through Pinterest or whatever, and I keep a folder of designs that catch my eye, and I'll use those as inspiration for my projects. Sometimes I'll flat out say I am copying something that I saw, and a lot of times it's just inspiration of types of ideas that are adapted to fit that specific project. Just get inspiration from all around you. Pinterest is an amazing place to get inspired. Even with the jigs, there's a ton of like jig inspiration on Pinterest as well. Next question. What's the most frustrating part of woodworking for you? So any time I have to work with some sort of hardware, just completely messes with my head. I can't stand working with hardware. So like hinges and things like that. So now when I'm doing a project, I always make a mock-up with hardware just to get it out of the way. I think it's because I just can't follow directions properly, and that's why it always messes with me. I used to get really frustrated with mistakes. I don't anymore. It's like I take a moment to be like, ugh, but then I move on and I figure out a way to fix it. Now I just go into every project expecting that there's going to be a mistake. And as I keep building and as I keep doing more and more projects, I learn how to fix those things. And it's just part of it. Mistakes are just part of it, and it's okay. And it doesn't frustrate me anymore, as much anymore. Do you experience burnout with woodworking or YouTube? How do you deal with it? Yes, absolutely. There are so many times where I'm just like, I have no more ideas. I don't know what I'm gonna do next. So when that happens, I take a break. So there are some times where like you'll see I just don't post any videos in a while, or I'm just not on Instagram, not responding to comments. I just need to shut it all down for a little bit and recharge. And then during that recharging stage, there'll be an idea. I'm like, ooh, I have a really good idea. I'm so excited to try this now. And then I have this like renewed energy to be like, yes, I have to figure this out. So it's really important to just like take breaks and to just take some time to reset and recharge. A lot of times I just won't post a video for a while and people will say, it's been too long. Where's the next video? I'm waiting for the next video. Those are usually times where I just need a break and I need to spend some time with my family and I just need to focus on them and life. And then I get excited about woodworking and this whole thing again, and I'll get back on here. So whenever I'm silent for a while, just know I'll be back. So next question. Do you enjoy the woodworking process or has it become a job that you have to do? So the woodworking process is something that I always enjoy, and it's the job part of it for me is this whole video editing stuff. So like sometimes in the beginning of a project, like I'll get like all excited, like move the camera here, like plan all these different transitions, different shots. And like towards the end of the project, it's like, oh, do I have to film this part? So I still enjoy doing the building aspect of it, but it's the video part of it and then the voiceover. It took me a really long time to be comfortable talking on camera. This is not my comfort zone at all. So this is the part of it that's the job, the woodworking part I love. And maybe if I was like constantly just like making the same table over and over and over again, then that would be something that I would feel that way about woodworking. But because I'm always experimenting and trying something new with the woodworking stuff, I don't see that part as the job at all. All right. Where are we? Oh, this is a fun one. Okay. Why do you say some words weird? So I'm from Long Island, and there are a lot of words that I say weird to you guys with an accent that you just don't hear me say because they're not words that you use with woodworking. Like I say things like dog and mall and coffee. And coffee, is that how I say it? Coffee, bring me the coffee. Okay. And there are just some things that I say with an accent because it's where I grew up. The most offensive to a lot of you guys is when I say draws. And there are people that get really, really, really angry that I say draw and not drawer. Drawer is not a word. So I don't know how you guys are saying it like that. It's a draw. You get your keys from the draw and you go to the mall. All right. So there's other words like template. I say people like start cursing me out and get really angry that I say template, and I'm supposed to be saying template, right? No, it's a template. That's how it's spelled. And I say like chamfer instead of chamfer. I don't know. There's just words that I say funny. I'm sure you guys have pointed out a lot of other ones. I have an accent. I'm from Long Island, and I just say some words with a Long Island accent. Funny story. The first time that I made a video with draws, I started getting all of these comments. What are you saying? What are you saying? What's a draw? What's a draw? And I'm like, what? Am I saying this word weird? Like, why are these people saying this? So immediately I texted all of my friends that I grew up with, and I said, please record the way that you say the word D-R-A-W-E-R. And they all responded with draw. So it's just how we say it where I'm from. Next one. Why don't you have heat in your shop? So you guys see that sometimes in the wintertime I'm absolutely freezing and I'm all bundled up because there's no heat or any sort of AC or anything in here. I'm in an uninsulated, detached garage, and that whole uninsulated part is the issue. This whole garage needs a whole makeover before I can get to any of that. So I'm a little superstitious with like saying things before they happen, but something's happening and just trust me. I'm hoping that this I'm not going to have to suffer in the cold anymore. Just stay with me and you guys will see what I'm talking about. Next question, sort of shop related, will you get a saw stop? That's the same thing. This shop, it was not meant to be a shop. So the electric needs to be totally done. So I didn't want to get something that wasn't going to be my dream saw. I want to get something that's super powerful, and I want to wait until everything is updated and upgraded to get what I really, really want. And I'll just be patient because the saw that I have has been working for me. It has its limitations. Everyone always asks me, DeWalt DW745, I guess that's a common question that I should have put on here. I don't think they sell that particular model anymore, but they do sell similar ones. And it's been working fine. Like I'm able to figure out what its limitations are and work around that. So until then, I'm waiting. I'm okay to be patient. I know what's coming. And you guys will see, just be patient. It'll happen. It'll happen. But just know, when it does happen, I've done all of these projects on that little saw. So I'm not going to be changing the way that I make projects. I'm just not going to have to do workarounds and things anymore. So you could still make awesome stuff with that little saw. Okay, moving on. 5 tools you can't live without. 5 tools I can't live without. Router table, trim router, plunge router. Do I have any more routers? Router bits and router jigs. Routers. I like routers. All right, moving on. How do you select which species of wood to use for your projects? It's mostly an aesthetic choice. I want darker stuff, I'll go with walnut. I want lighter stuff, I'll go with maple or white oak. If I want some sort of grain showing, but I'm going to be staining it, I'll use ash. It's mostly aesthetic stuff. I mean, there are certain cases where if you're going to be driving a stake through something, joinery wise, you don't want something that's going to split easily. So you use something like poplar, but mostly it's just aesthetic. The woods that I think look pretty in my house, those are the ones that I use. Last but not least, what advice would you give someone starting out, or what do you wish you knew before you started, both in woodworking and creating content for YouTube? So with the woodworking stuff, I kind of touched on this before with the mistakes. When I first started, I would make a mistake and I would get so frustrated and so angry with myself. How can I be so stupid to make this mistake? How did I mess this up? I'm gonna quit and never do this again. You can't think like that. You're going to make mistakes on every single project. I've yet to make a project that I haven't made a mistake on. And most of the time I include some sort of mistake in these videos, but I don't include all of them. There's a lot more mistakes that I have than I show. I don't include all of them because it would make my videos even longer than they already are. And they're just not important to the story, and there was no important lesson to learn. It was just, I usually only leave them in if it's like a cool trick that I fixed them, or some sort of lesson that added to the story. So you're going to make mistakes, and you just have to learn how to fix them. And I made a project recently where I cut off of the template and cut into the wood. And I was like, oh, this is so annoying. Trying to figure out how to fix it. I was like, you know what? Nobody's gonna know that the original template wasn't this shape. So why don't I just change the shape of the template and fix it that way? So it didn't have to be precise with joinery or anything. It was a purely aesthetic curve kind of situation. I just, looking at the final piece, nobody knows that wasn't my original shape that I wanted it to be, and that was just how I fixed it. So there's always ways to fix something, and just don't get frustrated when you're first starting. Just keep on going and figure out how to fix it, and you'll just get so much better. Now, regarding creating content for YouTube, I guess I didn't realize how much time I would be spending on the computer as opposed to in my shop. So I enjoy woodworking. Like I really enjoy just like being in my shop and just like messing around. And like sometimes I'll just do that. Like I won't record stuff and I'll just like mess around with stuff, like trying to figure stuff out. And those are my favorite days. So the time spent on the computer is a lot, like way more than I'm in the shop. I'm in my house, in my office, either editing, responding to emails, like responding to comments, planning the projects. So I have a tight schedule when it comes to making these videos that I have to make sure that everything that I need for the project is ordered on time. See, I'm waiting for some hardware on this project I'm working on. Totally dropped the ball on that one. So I really don't ever want that to happen. So I need to make sure that all these projects are planned out months in advance so that I can keep the flow of my videos going. Like the next one has to be, everything needs to be ordered and ready before I start it, because like it all like starts building up onto one another, if you understand what I mean. Like the roll-up chair, everyone's saying, when are you getting back to it? When are you getting back to it? Like I need time to prepare my projects in order to make them work and to make the process of them go smoothly. And I have already like projects that I was planning from before that needed to get done. So it's kind of like I will get to it. I'm actually getting to it soon. But it just, that whole planning process of it takes way longer than you it's not just like, oh, I'm going to build this now and let's build it and now it's done. It's like this was planned a few months ahead of time before I started, because I had to get everything ready, drawing up the plans for it and everything. Like all of that needs to be released on the same day. So like the video, the website post, the plans, the short Instagram video, like all of that needs to be ready the day that the video goes live. And I don't have anybody working for me but myself. So it's a lot of computer work and a lot of preparation, but this is what I signed up for and I wouldn't change a thing. So I hope that answers your questions. These were the most common questions that I got on Instagram. So if you guys have any other questions for me, maybe ask them down below and I can try to answer them as best as I can. So I hope this was informative. Now I just have to wait for this hardware to come and hopefully I could finish up this project so I could get another video out for you guys. Thank you so much for watching and I'll see you when I'm done building this project.